Welcome back to Strive's Talking Points. Today I was kind of doing a little troll. I got done with my work early, so I went to NBC News and just kind of flipped through the stories. Now you see Trump related, Trump. Everything here relates to Trump, except for this story here. California rapper sleeping in car was shot by police about 25 times. So I did a little research on this to kind of go through. And we're actually going to start with this horrible video, just real quick. You can skip 30 seconds if you want to miss it. Did you hear the number of shots?
There's like 7 cops out here. They just blocked the drive-through. The guy over there doesn't want to come out. I don't know why.
You can hear this guy's audio. So, yeah, overkill is an understatement. No set of wounds and the number of times he was struck. This is Willie McCoy, fatally shot by California police officers on February 9th, 2019. I don't know how I missed this story. I normally see stories like this. I don't know why this is underreported. I actually looked for it on YouTube and only found a couple of smaller channels that covered it. Could be my own history. The people I watch just weren't doing it. So I'm going to do a real quick take on it. Now, here's the thing. Police were in the middle of blocking McCoy's car in the drive-thru so that he wouldn't make any sudden movements, and then woke up, officers said. They gave him several commands to put his hands up. In the video, you really don't hear hardly anything. You just hear screaming and then immediately shots fired. Rather than comply, he quickly moved his hands down to the gun. So they're saying he went for the gun. 6 officers, fearing for the safety, opened fire in about 4 seconds. And from the video, it sounds maybe like there's 4 seconds total. Screaming, shooting, that's it. And then more screaming at the end of it. Officers continued to yell commands as the driver ultimately reached through his broken glass on the driver's side window to unlock the vehicle. They said before retrieving McCoy's body to perform first aid. He died at the scene. Shot 20 or 25 times. Hit about 25 times with bullets. Face, throat, blowing off part of his ear. That...
Dude. Dude.
After the shots, screaming at him. That's a lot of ammo, and then they scream at him to put his hands up. And whoever screaming that should, I don't know that they should be a police officer anymore. That is, once you shoot someone 20 plus times, you need to get medical there quickly. That is just crazy. McCoy reportedly fell asleep in the drive-thru of the Taco Bell 900 block around 10:30. Police arrived on the scene and discovered he had a handgun in his lap, according to the police news release. I believe the gun was found to be a stolen firearm. I was flipping through lots of different reports. One of them shows it was from Oregon, if I believe so. Now, keep in mind, you just watched the video. Whole thing, less than 30 seconds, and that's with the redoing after they've already shot and started talking to him. According to his family, the front passenger window had a piece of plastic covering it. Could an officer have reached in, unlocked the door, and arrested the sleeping McCoy peacefully for having an illegal firearm? That seems reasonable. Instead, officers with their weapons drawn shouted commands. When McCoy stirred, he reached for his gun. If it was laying in his lap and he made any movement, stretching, yawning, shock, anything, maybe he reached for the keys, maybe was trying to get his seatbelt off, there's no telling. Immediate bullets. This is saying 30 bullets. No, sorry, this is a different person's death. Instead, officers with their weapons drawn shouted commands. When McCoy stirred, he reached for the gun. He became a threat. Then 6 Valero police officers fired multiple shots because they feared for their lives. Now, I'm seeing this. What are we at here? Mercury News, NBC, San Francisco Chronicle, New York Post. All of these kind of follow along the same story. Here's a guy who's aspiring rapper, whatnot, goes to Taco Bell after sessions in the studio, has a gun in his lap for whatever reason. It doesn't honestly matter that he did. Fell asleep in a Taco Bell drive-thru. Cops are called for whatever reason. They arrive on the scene, and then they surround the car, start screaming. He wakes up. As soon as he wakes up and makes any motions, if he's asleep in the car, his hands were probably already in his lap, would be my assumption. I doubt he would sleep with his hands in the air. So if he jolted awake and he made any type of stuff, they opened fire on him. 6 officers fire multiple rounds. Officers gave... Now, this seems strange to me. Officers gave several commands, put his hands up. The driver did not comply and instead moved his hands down towards the firearm. Now, if you're sitting in a car and you're asleep, I would like to first know where your hands are, because they would generally be near your lap. That would be my initial thought here, and that if you had a firearm laying in your lap, your hands are probably right next to it anyway. So, yeah, seems interesting. They go on to describe the fully loaded gun. Yeah, doesn't matter. And here is an interesting thing. This is how police typically approach vehicles. Keep the driver in front of you, you're behind them, so that that person has to exit the vehicle with you behind them, so that you're sitting in the car. Of course, you're facing forward. All the police are behind you, aiming at you. And you can slowly get out of the car without the police being in any serious threat unless you start firing through the window, at which time they can fire at you. Now, keep in mind, in the drive-thru, there was a car in front and a car behind. Car behind, here's his car, and there's a car in front. So you see these officers here have the distance. They have an officer back here and the door, so they can be in essentially as safe as possible. With the police in front, they can also be facing down. I believe this is actually from a game, Traffic Stops. This is, I believe, San Andreas. But you see kind of the laydown. You want to be behind the suspect, firing forward. Here is a real life one. You see all these officers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units. Car in front, officers behind, guns drawn. If this person is armed, it would be very difficult for them to harm any of the officers. Again, this is how they normally do it, over the bullhorn. All the officers behind the vehicle. Officers behind the vehicle. Officers all behind the vehicle. In protected points. Not stacked around the vehicle. You don't see these officers lining up around the vehicle in quasi-firing squad. I don't see how this is going to go anywhere. I'm going to be trying to keep up with this. This does seem like a gross negligence. I don't know how police in this area are supposed to respond to stops where a person is armed. And if the policeman was able to walk up to the vehicle and see that the person was asleep and it did have a plastic window, I don't see what would have stopped the officer from opening the door, removing the firearm, or proceeding to get behind the vehicle in a protected thing, hop on the bullhorn, yell at the person inside the car, waking them up, they exit, no one gets shot. This seems like a pretty standard way to go. Yeah, here's just Google image search. Quite often you will see the police behind the vehicle. There's a ramming one. That's not the same. But that's typically what you see are police line up in protected points behind the vehicle so that they themselves are able to fire without taking fire themselves. This is what you should have seen there, not the 25 plus shots where officers are apparently surrounding the front and sides of the vehicle, or if they were at the vehicle and saw the gun, I would expect they would have moved away, then got on the bullhorn and started rousing the sleeping person instead of the firing squad that you kind of got there. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. This does seem to be a gross negligence on the part of the Valero police. However, I wasn't there, but just with limited knowledge of how these things typically work, this is the view you want to see for police stops. Police lined up behind the perpetrator's vehicle, them not coming out into the open, protected firing, coaxing the perpetrator backwards, under fire, or under cover, not launching into 30 plus shots and hitting someone 20 times and then yelling, "Get your hands up." Look. Here, listen. Screaming, "Get your hands up, get your hands up." They just shot. And then, now get your hands up. No. Hopefully this is one that will go to trial. And unless there's some reason the police can explain why they were standing around the front of the car to see in and fire upon him rather than behind the car, which I believe is the normal, the standard procedure. I don't know. This will be one of those, see where it goes. To the family of McCoy, this is a tragedy. He should not have been, that should not have happened. And yeah, that's my take on it. So you all have a great day.